I love people and I love having friends. And I will tell you, it's so beneficial for life and business. The world works through friendships and relationships. You could be the smartest person in the world, and I could literally get a job faster than you just from my relationships. People hire people with trust. Do you know what I'm saying? It's your responsibility to articulate what it is that you want and ask for it, because it's unfair for you to expect other people to do what you want them to do for you. Because I'll tell you right now, my mom loves me. She also doesn't want to take me to the airport at 4 a.m. She can, and she will if I ask her to, but does she really want to?
That is one of my favorite studies. It's done at Harvard. It's 700 men. And across their whole lives, they try to figure out what leads them to the most success and most happiness. And it turns out, after 8 decades, the clearest finding wasn't that it was wealth or fame or achievement. The most consistent predictor of both happiness and long-term health was the quality of their close relationships.
Yeah, that's deep, dude. I'd say that you're incredible at building relationships too. I mean, your perception level and analytical mind is very good. It's very, very good. You're very intelligent.
1, thank you. 2, could you repeat any of that in front of my wife? Like
yeah, you got it. You got it.
Young, so I'll never forget how we met. We were introduced through my VP of Finance, Liz, through Operators Guild. She was going out on mat leave, and she said, "Hey, I know I'll be out. You got to meet this guy, Young. He's known in the industry for being this incredible fractional CFO. I think he can do a lot of good for us." And I said, "Awesome." And we met, and we don't talk about exactly what was going on, but let's just say it was a little hard time. And the first meeting, you had this whole plan for like what we were going to do and like how we're going to use the hours together and how your team was lined up to go. And I think within 15 minutes, you were like, okay, we're going to scrap that plan. We're just going to focus on this. And we're going to meet every night, 3 times a week at 7 p.m. And, I have to say this, and I love you, but so everyone else knows, is you got me through that hard time, man. I mean that, Young. Like, I feel so indebted to you and just all the positive energy you brought into that and how we just worked through it. It was just amazing. It was a hard time for me as a CEO, and I think for the company, and you got us through. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is how unique you are, because I think, look, everyone has these like founder playbooks today, and they're packed with like advice about market sizing and pitching and product design, but I've never read anything that talks about how to build trust at scale. and yeah, and this is something I know you believe, but relationships are kind of like the compound interest engine behind every meaningful outcome. And so when I think of you, look, you're like a serial founder, you're an operator, you're a brand builder, you're a people systems person. You've like built this almost like operating system for human connection. And for 1 second, I want to talk about the study that is one of my favorite studies. It's the longest longitudinal study in the history of social sciences. It's done at Harvard. It's 700 men. And across their whole lives, they try to figure out what leads them to the most success and most happiness. And it turns out, after 8 decades, the clearest finding wasn't that it was wealth or fame or achievement. The most consistent predictor of both happiness and long-term health was the quality of their close relationships.
Yeah, that's deep, dude. That's dope.
And you're so good at this stuff. So if you're down, man, like I haven't actually heard. I've heard about this, but I haven't actually heard, like, you had this epiphany at Starbucks. I think you were like, were you like working there? You were a model there, maybe both. what happened, man?
Yeah, the epiphany came at Starbucks for sure. I mean, it was really interesting because I was very much so in my early stage of my career. So I was like trying to level up my skills, right? Trying to stack as many competencies I could and learn hard skills. And I had failed a couple of businesses before that and realized how important it was to have skills. You can't just like start businesses.
Soul hunting skills, skills.
Skills, yeah. And so I went to work at Starbucks, and what a great company to learn skills from, right? They were growing. They were rapidly growing that during that time. I mean, I think they were doing 2 stores a day. It was an incredible expansion. Wow. Yeah, it was an unbelievable time to be at Starbucks. And it was like so fun to watch how they ran their business and just how they really focused on the human connection and the relationship value of their customers and their baristas, and to the detriment of business. I mean, it's almost like at the sacrifice of profitability, they really focused on that relationship and value. It's like they weren't selling a cup of coffee, they were selling a relationship. And it was really fascinating because for me, it's like coming from an entrepreneur mindset, I'm like, how does that even make fiscal sense? Like, that sounds like a terrible idea, especially with like, just like thinking about making money and stuff. And then you start to see how people would overlook like a bad cup of coffee or even a slow coffee or like just basic ineptitude because they had a great relationship with you. And I'm not saying you should have bad quality stuff. You should try to be good at what you do. Obviously, you should try to be good at what you do. But I'm sitting here watching this going like, is this real? Like, is this real? Like, you don't even have to be smart or good or fast or efficient. You could literally just have a great relationship with someone and they're going to be like, oh, you're just having an off day. It's fine. And they would come back the next day and then they give you another chance, another rep. And it like literally like broke something in my mind. It gave me this whole like worldview that I hadn't thought about before. And it really taught me that, you obviously need to have good competencies and good skills, deliver great stuff, great value to the world and your customers. But more importantly than competencies and skills is actually the relational value and trust. And then it goes back to the adage of like, people care only how much you care people only care what you know until you know how much you care, right?
People only care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one-liner. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, like you learn this at like these most random opportunities, like at Starbucks. I just learned it through, like these coffee shops. And then I got the opportunity to manage multiple locations. And so I was doing all sorts of social experiments on them. And again, this is totally not okay, but they were so busy, they were growing so fast that they couldn't control it, But I would hire all boys in one, and I would hire all girls in one, and I would hire a mixture of ages in one. I would just like do social experiments to see what worked the best and how it worked. But across the board, the ones that performed the best were the ones that performed hyper focused on relational value with the diverse group of people. Wow. So every group of community felt like they had someone that was like their friend at the shop.
This reminds me, one of my most brilliant friends, he's like this crazy hedge fund guy. I remember this one time he said this thing to me and I thought about it. He goes, people think diversity sometimes is community service. It is not. Diversity is a competitive advantage.
Oh yeah.
And your like study that you just did without Starbucks even knowing, just like undeniably proved that.
Anecdotally, yeah, I proved it. Yeah. Well, at least in my own little realm of testing, it totally did. And I mean, I can even take it one step further, and I may get canceled for this, but I actually hired a person with special needs in my location, and Starbucks had done this before, and there was even a movie with I Am Sam, about this whole barista at Starbucks and stuff, but I was the first one to do it with no government subsidies, no nonprofit subsidies, or corporate subsidies. I basically said, no, I don't want it subsidized. I want to basically have someone that, it needs to be there because we are so busy to earn that revenue. And so I did a ton of research and figured out like, hey, there's actually this really weird role that Starbucks has. It's in the handbook, and they're like 200-page handbook, and I found it pre-ChatGPT, by the way. And it's called a cafe attendant role. And if you hit a certain amount of volume in an hour, you could earn enough labor to basically hire someone that just buses and samples in the front of the cafe. And so I basically looked at my managers and I said, hey, this is something I want to do. And so you have the opportunity to transfer to another location, or you're going to do this with me, and you're either going to burn out because we're going to try to grow this store to like crazy revenue numbers to get to do this. But this is way more important to me to do this than you are to me. So you're either on the bus or you're off the bus. Say so now. And nobody quit. Nobody transferred. And we all stayed there and turned it into one of the most highest volume locations in the peninsula. And
no way.
Yeah, we hired someone with special needs. And what was crazy was everyone's like, oh, it's great community service. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, I got so much more revenue from that. Like, people would literally skip stores. They would drive an extra 12, 15 miles and skip like 40 Starbuckses to come to that location to support this guy's job.
Wow, man.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, right?
That is an amazing story.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I think there's obviously parallels and there's obviously pros and cons to all of what I'm saying, but I do think that there's a lot of like merit to this concept of like playing into the diversity role and like it goes back to the relational role more than the diversity role for me. I mean, I'm not super stuck on the as you can tell, I talk more about the money than I do about the diversity. But for me, it's more about like what attracts people to spend more time there and spend more money there, right? And because that'll make the whole ecosystem work. And so if you're adapting to the market, it's really around providing them relational value.
I mean, the thing that I just want to say this. I've never actually thought about this Venn diagram before. Profiteering and then like diversity and inclusion. Turns out there's a really big overlap according to your studies. Like, and the thing that I think is so interesting is this is just the market speaking, like no subsidies. You just hired someone, you wanted to give them a chance. And then because of the relationship aspect of it, people remembered that person. They maybe saw themselves in that person, and whatever it was, ages, genders, race, whatever the special needs or not. And they came in because they wanted to go back and have the relationship with that person.
Totally. And back then, I mean, I think there was a growing stat, like it was like 1 in 10 Americans had some sort of marker on the spectrum. And now it's like 1 in like 8. I think it's like increasing, right? And so even back then, it was actually a high number. And so everyone like kind of knew someone with special needs. And so like you wanted to support that person because you're thinking about your cousin or your brother or whoever, right? And you're like, oh, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I don't mind skipping 4 Starbuckses. There's one every corner. Who cares? And then go to that one and support that guy's job.
See, that is wild. So would you say then that these Starbucks experiments you ran? And by the way, I want to say how wild it is that you took that and you then I think applied that to like Apple and Phil's coffee, which I want to talk to you about later. Think about that wild journey you're on. Is is that when you realized that relationships were foundational, not just helpful, but like foundational in success?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was like the epiphany, and then I started like further validating that epiphany through the rest of my experiences at Apple and then Phil's, and then now obviously it's the only thing this is like literally the only thing I focus on is just the
Working out pretty
relationship.
well.
Well, it's because it's like so crazy to me how um trust and buy-in and that authentic relationship will allow you to actually help people faster, but also help you find the right people that you need faster. And I'm a consultant, right? So I come in and I have to build buy-in very quickly, and the art is really around like not how much I know, it's really around how much I can build trust, because you have this outside consultant immediately going in and saying, hey, here's where you suck. You know what I mean? Like most people might listen to it or
They
they
don't
might,
love that. Yeah.
yeah, but then they'll turn around and go, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, dude, I'm not actually doing that. But you want them to genuinely like conference with you and dialogue with you and debate with you and have an open conversation so you can actually like solve the problem and then walk away as a unified front. That only happens when you trust somebody.
Young, it's so interesting you say this. And obviously, I was looking at your presentation you did a few weeks back here in Silicon Valley. And one of the things you were talking about in that was how this is becoming even more critically important in an age of AI where like you don't know what's real anymore. Like you don't really know what anything means, what's truth. And the thing that you will know is the relationship you have with someone on a personal level and the trust you have with them. Maybe like which direction is this going? Like, it seems like it was when you started, it was like, hey, this is important. It's now become even more important. It seems like in the future, it might be the most important thing is the strength of your trusted relationship.
I think that's absolutely true. And if you're asking me what I think, in my opinion, on the future, I think it's going to be the only thing that we can really differentiate ourselves with is our word and our brand, right? And and I think it's one of the most um, uniquely human things that we can provide to other humans as things get more and more commoditized. And so I absolutely believe that learning how to build rapport, build real relationships that are beyond surface level is the skill. And then second, followed up is creativity and humor, storytelling, all those kind of creative functions. I think is going to be the second most important thing. That's just my opinion. I
Yeah.
mean, Obviously, I'm not the
I'm here for
smartest,
it. No, I mean,
smartest person ever, but that's what I think AI is going to do. And I'm hyper investing in that. And I'm hyper investing that in my kids. Right. And so that's kind of my goals for them, because I think that more than, functional skills or educational skills, I think like the art of building really great relationships, learning how to build boundaries, helping people navigate their problems and protecting yours, like all those different things, right? Like it's not just about being nice. It's also about like standing ground and you know what I mean? And like having really good functional relationships, right?
that's a good point. I mean, what's the one thing that you can also do if you have a high trust relationship? You can disagree,
That's right.
push
You can
back.
disagree. That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And you can have really good dialogue that goes way beyond surface.
totally.
Like that's where real relationships form anyways. I mean, it's like when the really, really high highs and the really, really low lows. And that's really where relationships are formed, because it's the boundaries. It's like the ceilings and the floors. Um, you exude who you are at your best and at your worst.
Oh, wow. God, that's so true. That is so true.
That's why I knew I wanted to be your friend. I mean, because I kind of, I mean, not to put
I mean,
your laundry up for air here, but yeah, I saw you at your worst, so I was like, man, I
yeah.
love this guy. I want to be friends with him.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
I appreciate
whatever
that,
that's worth.
man.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, talk about building trust early. Like, came in, it was low, and you were like, "I'm here for you." I mean, I just met you, and you were like, "I won't give up. I'm here for you. We will get through this." So let's get tactical for a second. And I know it can feel like, I don't know, maybe a little weird to get tactical on how to build relationships, but let's just do it. So you like kind of have like a famous like framework for how you build like your relationship OS. Um, like I mean, you know, I want tell me about it, because I haven't heard that. This is the thing that's, I have to say this for 1 second, is like I saw this presentation you gave, and I was like, oh, and I was like, oh my gosh, he just did this to me like the whole time. But I haven't actually heard you talk about it, so I'm actually eager to hear you. Like, what's this 4-step framework to?
Oh, so funny, so embarrassing. I love it because you're just like, oh my gosh, he totally gaved me.
Totally gave to me.
Yeah, I think that like it makes you sound really weird, and it's gonna make me sound like a crazy person, because I mean most people just do this stuff naturally, right? And they're just like they just instinctively are social and they just take normal cues. And I think that I'm um strange for breaking down what I see works and then quantifying it and then replicating it and practicing it, right? Because my natural state isn't to network and build relationships. My natural state, like my wife knows this about me, I'm very kind of independent and solitaire. And yeah, but like it's a honed skill to do this. And then if I'm going to do it, I got to have a reason and purpose for it. And then if I have a reason and purpose for it, then I have to optimize it. And so then I got good at it. In order to get good at it, I had to watch other people do it and then test it on the people around me with myself. And so it broke down what is normal for other people. I have like literal manual steps that I'm following. It's so bad. But it starts with just a couple of things, right? It's like disarming is like the number one step. I always try to start with. I always try to like look and find physical cues and just innocuously ask things that are just like not normal. So like, hey, like, oh, looks like you got a new microphone, like tell me about your new microphone. Why'd you get a Rode microphone, right? And like just pointing it out. Or like looks like you changed your hair. Like, why did you change your hair? What's with that? Tell me the story about it. And like, you just like grab random things that you're noticing about them physically, right? And it's like this first level tier that gives them the opportunity to share something about themselves. And then if you can get them to share something about themselves, then you get them to like basically open up a little bit, which then allows you to start feeding out like what are the commonalities that you can tell stories and riff
Oh.
with.
So you disarm them with like innocuous observational based questions,
Yeah.
and then you try to find you keep asking questions until you find like a similar thing.
I call it threading. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's my
Okay.
terminology. I basically try to get them to thread. So they're basically like threads on a sweater, and you try to find the ones that you can pull the sweater on, the thread on the sweater. And oh, like you keep talking about your Rode microphone, you keep talking about this, you talk about that. And then like eventually I'll be like, oh, I also got a Rode microphone. Like we can relate to that. So then I'll have like something that I'll say about it that's self-deprecating or something funny. Like mine's the lower model than yours. You have a little sound thing over it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know, right? You just like come up with something and you start like breaking in and having those
Yeah.
relational moments, and then they start to laugh and equate you with something more personal, something more fun, and then you just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper as fast as you can, right? Until they stop you, right? And then when they stop you, then you go the next level, which is you start sharing unnecessary information about yourself.
Oh my god. Okay, so disarm, thread, share unnecessarily.
Yeah, because most people, I will tell you, very few people will answer these innocuous questions and then continue the conversation. They'll stop you because it's awkward. Like, what did you? Oh, I see you got a bag from Nordstrom's. What did you buy? Like, it's none of your business. You know, like, you know what I mean. So then you have to like stop, and then you have to start sharing something that's vulnerable about yourself, and just like literally reverse disarm them.
By the way, this is a random story. I'm on this like really big important partnership negotiation the other day. You know this story, I think. And like their legal team comes on and it's our legal team. And I was like, hey, as we're getting going here, where's everyone coming in from? And they were like, California. I was like, oh, I'm in California too. I'm in San Francisco. Like, are you in the Bay Area? And they're like, yes. And I was like, oh, cool. We're in the Bay Area. I'm in Noe Valley. Like, and then literally the lawyer goes, it doesn't matter. and I remember I saw the business side of the partnership. They were like, oh, like, why did she do that? But then I had this thing and it was so, this is probably not part of the strategy.
Yeah.
It was, in my experience, that was one of the funniest things that had ever happened to me. Like, I had never experienced someone.
That's awesome.
Was like,
that's awesome.
Don't try to connect me in front of everyone. And so I brought it up again later. I was laughing and I was like, I'm so sorry I'm laughing. I've just like literally never heard anyone do that before. And it's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm so curious. Like, why were you so against sharing that? And then finally I broke through and she was like, oh, well, I'm actually like a privacy lawyer by trade. And so I'm really sensitive to questions like that. And I was like, oh, but the interesting thing is, now we're like close friends. We like joke around on Slack.
Totally.
And it's like, whoa. Anyway,
that's
okay,
amazing.
So,
I can't wait to meet her. Don't tell me.
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, and then introduce me just to see if I can break her down with
you'll
my
know.
4 steps.
You will know immediately upon meeting this person.
And then it's just me just blabbing about my personal problems.
Then in 4th grade, I had a rash. Okay. So disarm, thread, share rash stories, and then what?
Mirroring. So you always want to mirror and try to ask and answer through open-ended questions that just repeat back what they say. So if you can't get them to engage, you're threading by telling them all sorts of stuff about you, right? And then if you can't get that to work, then you just start to mirror. So you just essentially repeat back what they say in a question format. And then you just wait. I mean, it's this typical sales strategy, right? Where people naturally feel uncomfortable about silence. And then they start to share more, and then if sometimes that doesn't work either, I will say, like, and so you just got to keep working down the list, right? But the entire concept is to thread and reverse thread and share information. You get their information, but the last thing that you want to do is if you can't get any of those things, get them to say yes to something small. So like, hey, like, I know this isn't like, we should probably get back to business, but before we start, do you mind like just like switching your camera up a little bit or turning on your microphone closer? It's just a little bit like soft for me, whatever. So now you're doing me a favor. And that's a very subtle way of getting them to like start thinking of you as like, oh yeah, they're helping me. So now I owe you. And so now it's easier for me to say, hey, thanks for doing that one thing for me. And so let me do something for you. And then you're immediately creating this indebtedness of friendship.
Whoa. Okay. This reminds me of what's that study? I've written down. It was like the foot in the door principle. Have you heard of this? It's like this like I can't even say his name because obviously I'm not. It's like Cialdini's research on persuasion, and he finds that when you can find people to agree to a small initial request, they are far more likely to agree to larger ones later. Which is like basically, so you ask for a small favor or like a shared intro feedback, and it starts to carry momentum to trust, which by the way, then starts to lead into a strong relationship, which then goes down the road of what you're talking about in the first place.
Totally. Yeah. And for me, it's really around figuring out ways for me to give them something. right? Because then it's natural for me to say, hey, let me offer you something because you did me a favor. And it could be something small as well, too. But the concept of like exchanging, because it's hard to say no to a small favor. It's really hard. Like, can you pass me that napkin? It's like,
Yeah.
no, like, what do you mean? You know what I
Really?
mean? Just, yeah, just pass me the napkin.
Where's
You're
the
right next to it.
humanity?
Yeah, it's like, so you want to like just do that as a last resort, right? If
Yeah.
you can't disarm them, you can't thread, you can't reverse thread.
I love that.
Because some people are like that, man. They're very guarded, and then you just ask them for small favors, and then you use that to give them something, say, in exchange of value.
So there's one thing, Young, you also do, and this actually reminds me of a couple episodes again. I had these negotiation coaches on, Todd and Derek, who are amazing. And they said that, a really common mistake in Western culture is people don't prepare for interactions. Like they don't think about what it is they want. And I know in the past, you've actually talked about this a bit, and which is so interesting because you, and I mean this was all love, you come across like you're kind of just winging it. You're like, oh, hey, and you're like super social and really nice. But the irony is you never wing it. You're actually
No.
really, really prepared, which is which is part of the mystique of Young. By the way, for you viewers at home, whenever his phone rings, it literally is Phil Collins' remix. It goes, "Forever young, I wanna be forever young." So here's the question: like, how do you prepare for stuff? I mean, you have this this way of doing it, which it seems like you've taught yourself, and almost been instinct to you ask questions, you share, you thread, you mirror. But what does preparation look like to build strong relationships?
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because those are the tactics to like build those relationships. But the whole point is to get something that you want out of it, right? And so, like, I mean, if not, I mean, I would just hang out at home and not do business development. You know what I mean? Like the natural instinct isn't to learn how to do all this and like be this crazy person that breaks down all these psychological tactics. You know what I mean? Like that's not a normal thing, And so obviously there's a heightened level of desire for something that this is going to help me achieve. And I think that goes back to the whole concept of like, what is it that you want? And then how are you going to get that from this person? And how do you want them to feel about it? So that's how I prepare. I just answer those two questions.
What do you want? How do you want them to feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do I want this person to do? And how do I want them to feel about it? And now you're going to think back to all the meetings we've had the last 4 weeks.
No. Actually, I was going a different direction. I was going to say, I think in listening to you, this universe, you're like, oh my gosh, like he's manipulating the situation. He manipulated me. But I actually don't think that's what this is. This feels a lot more true, which is it's momentum through value, and it is momentum through trust. And you're doing it in these very human, albeit disarming ways that are lovely. Like, I don't know who it's hard. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone, even knowing what you're doing, who's going to be offended by it. Like, yeah, this is great. Like, it's a really enjoyable.
Totally. I mean, the way that we're saying it makes it sound horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Say,
and then they meet me and then they'll realize, oh, it's like literally this small Asian guy that's just like super happy. It's very fine, guys. It's all good. It's all good. I'm harmless in many, many ways. But it's like, if you're not clear and share what you want and what you need, and you're expecting people to help you do stuff, like you're in for a world of hurt. Because I'll tell you right now, my mom loves me. My mom absolutely loves me. I'm like the best thing since sliced bread. She also doesn't want to take me to the airport at 4 a.m. She can, and she will if I ask her to. But does she really want to? No, nobody wants to help you. Can they? Will they do it for you? Absolutely. But my mom doesn't even want to do that. What makes you think I want to do that for you? Nobody wants to do it. They can and they will, but they don't want to. Nobody wants to.
Got it.
So it's your responsibility. If that is true and you agree with me, then it's your responsibility to articulate what it is that you want and ask for it. Because it's unfair for you to expect people to want what you want them to do for you.
But I also think, though, I mean, there's also a universe where, not even universe, I think another common thing I've seen, especially when people are like earlier in their career, is they kind of assume people are like mind readers, and people aren't. And so I've seen people get offended that someone doesn't want to do what they want them to do, when it's like they didn't know. You got to tell them.
Totally.
So it's something as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that's the vast majority of us, right? It's just like we We just need to be more articulate about what we want. I think I'd say that you're incredible at building relationships too. I mean, it's fun watching you work. I
Thanks,
love
man.
it. Yeah, like I got to see you build rapid fire relationships for a couple of months there, and it was so fun to watch you work.
Thanks, man.
You're
I appreciate you for that.
you're so perceptive. Your perception level and analytical mind is like it's it's very good. It's very, very good. You're
One,
very intelligent. You're very, very
thank you.
intelligent. Yeah.
Two, could you repeat any of that in front of my wife? Even like
Yeah,
a
you
half
got
sentence.
it. You got it. Your ability to like read the room, watch what they're doing, watch what they're saying, and then respond with like the right it's just amazing. It's phenomenal, man. Yeah.
Let me segue that because I think one of the things you were saying about is how you're teaching your kids about building relationships, but I think you said in the past to me that you believe the future belongs to those who are emotionally fluent, not just technically brilliant. And this is obviously, like it feels like you made that decision and you made a bet years ago. And it turns out that bet fundamentally changed your life in a really positive way. So, like, what does it mean? Like, you're saying these very kind things about being perceptive or emotionally fluent. I mean, like if you feel like you went from this shy kid who had to break down how you do it for yourself so you could get to that place, how do you teach it? How do you teach someone to be emotionally fluent? What does it mean?
Well, I think first and foremost for my kids, I'm teaching them boundaries first and foremost, and conflict, right? So being able to share with people what they don't like and where their boundaries are. Because I think the problem with most people is that we're so afraid of confrontation that we have this avoidance of building real relationships where I'm kind of the opposite. Like you get what you see, as much as you might think of all the listeners are thinking, no, this guy's a manipulative wolf. But no, I'm literally what you get what you see, right? And so I you'll also know the stuff that you don't like about me very quickly. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
I don't have a second persona. I don't have a different alter ego. I just
that's
I
true.
just am like this when it could be 1 o'clock in the morning, it could be 7 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter. Like it's just me,
That's
right?
true. That's very
And
true.
I think that that's what I want to teach my kids is like you don't need to waste 30 years like I did trying to make everyone happy. Just be you, know what you like, what you don't like, and it'll actually move the people that don't like it away from you faster and attract the people that like it faster. Like it's just a more efficient way to create meaningful relationships.
That was so good. I was gonna
Yeah.
mark in the star date. 3250 was like a really good sentence. That was so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like so important. It's so important for our kids, right? Because like, the kids are just trying to make friends and they're like trying so hard to like learn social skills because they're just like my kids are young and they're in like elementary school. But like spending most of my time just teaching them like boundaries and confidence and the ability to be direct because I feel like I wasted 30 years of my life trying to impress people. And now I just like I am who I am, and if you don't like it, it's probably better that you don't like it and you let me know as soon as possible.
It takes a lot of courage, man. It does. If I'm being full here, I feel like I'm still learning that. It's really hard. It's hard to just like, hey, I am who I am, and some people won't like me, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Luckily, there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, turns out racking them up.
Yeah, exactly.
There's another thing that I wanted to talk about, which it's something that we did early on. You said, hey, you have to build your own personal CRM. Context is one of my friends, a guy named Scott Stanford. He runs this firm called Acme, as you know, investor, great guy. And he had a
Yeah, it's
LinkedIn
great.
post recently about networks, and he said, a lot of people make this mistake of reaching out to relationships when they need something. And what that does is it takes all the work you put into building a great relationship and it starts to deteriorate it into something a little closer to transactional, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of the relationship. Now, obviously, if it's a very strong relationship and you can do that every now and then, whatever, who cares? But if that's what you revert to, I mean, there are certain people that used to be close friends, and now whenever they text me, it's always like because they need something, and I'm like, yo, like what are you doing? And so he said in this post, think of your relationships and your network kind of like the chrome on a fire engine, and like the firefighters, they're always polishing those puppies off, just getting them ready. You never know. And it's kind of like that. And so I feel like some of the stuff we've talked about in the past, it's similar to that in that, you said you got to be pragmatic. It's kind of like treat your relationships like reps at the gym, where you're trying to make it consistent and intentional. And anyway, if you're up for it, obviously you don't have to, but what is your actual routine? Like, do you have a list of personal CRM and like when you like, what does it actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna make me look like a crazy person by the end of the show, but yeah, I track everything.
Wow.
I track everything. So I'm like a psychopath. Yeah, I track everything. Yeah, I track every person I message, how often I message them. I have dates and frequencies of like who I want to message, how often. I take notes on who I talk to and what little anecdotal information they gave me that I can talk about 3 months later. Yeah, I'm very, very serious about this stuff, right? I try to track everything. I also track every hour that I live, right? So I also track like how much I sleep, how much I spend the time with my kids, how much I work out, like, and I just, inputs, outputs kind of levers, and it's really weird stuff, but like I live by it and I think it helps me be more confident in who I am because it makes me in control of my own faults and successes, right?
I just want to say this for a second. One is it takes a tremendous amount of impressive discipline to maintain your personal relationship database. That's a huge amount of discipline. But the second is, so there, you ever heard of Dunbar's number?
Hmm.
He's this anthropologist, Robert Dunbar, and he studied at this. This will get to the point. It feels random for a second, but he studied primate brain sizes and group behavior. And he basically figured out that the mass of your brain was related to how many relationships you can have at once. And so if you apply that same theory to humans, we basically can at any given time really maintain 150 relationships. And there's concentric there's like, it's like 7 are in your inner circle, your most trusted,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah, it
like,
makes sense.
or
Yeah.
it's like 515, and then it's like 50 you'd call on a weekend, and then 100 past that. I think the reality is of today is we all know a lot more than 150 people. We are connected to billions of people instantly if we really want. But when you reconnect to those people, you want them to feel like you care about them because you do care about them. Like I saw my friend in the playground yesterday. His name's Ben. And I remembered his wife's name was Lucy. And I so desperately wanted to remember. I knew his girl's name was Cecile, but I couldn't remember his son's name because his son was just born. And under most circumstances, I would have felt really bad having to ask again because like I've seen this kid, but in my little Apple Notes, I always just write key date, key information about them. It said son Felix, and I was like, Felix is here. And is that manipulative? I don't think so. I just wanted to let him know that I cared about him, but according to my own brain mass, it's really hard for me to maintain connections with that many people. And so why not? And what you're doing is that on steroids. It's amazing.
So it's just a waste of calories to try to store it like inherently in the heart. My wife hates it. She's like, just be authentic and be emotional. I'm like, what a waste of calories holding all that stuff in my brain. Like, I'll just write it down and have the notifier remind me to book a meeting with Healy. I'm supposed to meet him every 3 months. It tells me and it knows exactly when his thing is, last thing we talked about. I'm like, perfect. And I don't have to think about Healy for 3 months. And then I go to meet Healy. He thinks I've been thinking about him for 3 months straight. I mean, I mean to, I want to, I just don't want to spend my day. I want to spend my time with my kids. I want to spend my time like focusing on like my family and like being in the moment, being spontaneous. I don't want to like think about you all the time and trying to remember all these things. And what a waste of calories.
Like you don't think about it. Yeah, we get it. Everyone believes you. Everyone believes you.
But you know what I mean, right? It's not that I don't care about you. So
No,
obviously, if I care about you and I don't have the time or capacity to do it, then you come up with ways of solving it.
And that's kind of the point is you have this programmatic system to basically you're matching your caloric input with the output of your intentions, which is you want to maintain these relationships. You know there's a science behind it. You have the desire to do it, but you're also maxed out across every different front. And so why not deploy help to help you do that? I mean, I don't. To me, I think it's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. I don't think that it's normal for sure. My wife tells me that all the time. She thinks it's crazy. She thinks I'm a crazy person, but I love people and I love having friends. And I will tell you, it's so beneficial for life and business. The world works through friendships and relationships. You could be the smartest person in the world, and I could literally get a job faster than you just from my relationships. I'm just saying right now. I'll put money on. I'll give you $100 steak dinner. I bet you that I can get a job faster than you just through relationships, and you could be 5 times smarter than me. Just
What, haven't you
people
said this in the
people
past?
hire people with trust. Do you know what I'm saying?
Smart is good, trusted is better.
Well, you also have to be a good person, right? Because I mean, the other thing is you can't be that manipulative, because if you're that manipulative, it'll also show over time, like that you are transactional. And so you have to genuinely care, and you have to genuinely like want to do good for people.
You can't fake it.
You can't fake it. Yeah. And I do. I genuinely love people, and I genuinely want to help people, and I genuinely want to be successful, and I want to bring people with me, and I want people to bring me with them, and so on and so forth, right?
That's such an important undercurrent of this because we're talking a bunch about young how there are systems and programs and methods and steps of how you build relationships, and those are all true, and by the way, very helpful. But I would argue that the thing you do specifically that is the magic sauce across all this, throughout all of it, is you are genuinely curious about other people.
Yeah.
If you weren't, I think it would shine through. I think people would be like, he's just like going off this script of questions and he like degaffs. He doesn't care what I have to say. But you actually are curious and you are thinking. And that's what's so important is like the undercurrent of all this is, yes, you can have systems in place and reminders and all these things. But foundationally, you have to actually believe it and care about it and care about other people. Otherwise, you could ask 1,000 questions and they're going to know you don't care.
Oh yeah, it'll show. It'll show very, very quickly. And you have to care. And that is absolutely true. So it goes back to the whole thing of like, have something valuable to provide. And that value is that you care. And I think that for me, it's like, gosh, I was at another client recently, and it was so interesting because um it doesn't matter who says the feedback or idea. Like it could be the janitor, it could be the CEO. Like I want to listen to the idea and feedback like it's the same. And I know that sounds really noble and nice, but it's not. It's just how my brain works. Like I just want to talk to people and get the best idea possible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I meant it shows. Okay, so I remember the slide in your presentation, which was about the 3 ways to increase success, and the one which we talked about, which was be prepared and be ready to win. Two other ones I kind of loved, and I'll tell them. Then I have some more questions. So the first was you said, be smart enough to understand the risk, dumb enough to say yes.
Yeah. That's my favorite saying. Yeah. That's exactly my favorite saying.
And then the third one you said is put yourself in rooms with more opportunities. So let's talk about the second one. Like, there's like a intentional naivete. I don't know how you say that. Intentional naivete that you see as a feature and not a flaw. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what you're referencing on the second part of the feature, not a flaw, but I will say that you do need to put yourself out there and increase your surface area. It's like I just had this conversation with another founder that was starting their fundraise, and I'm like, like, can I get some advice from you? And I'm like, no, not really, because I don't know like your skill level, what you've done, all this other stuff. They're like, nothing. And I'm like, I'll tell you one thing. You definitely need to be doing more units of reps. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you talk about all this information you've garnered from all these meetings, but it sounds like you've talked to like 30 people. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, was that not enough? And I'm like, no, you should talk to like 100 people. Get yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get yourself
Yeah.
out there. Talk to 200 people. I don't know. Like, even before I start any business, I have a rule of 100. I interview 100 people in that industry before I start a business.
Really?
Yeah. And just because I want to increase my surface area and my opportunities, right? Because it's not that, the world hates you, or it's like you're just messed up and you're never going to be successful. It's that you just don't have the right people in your ecosystem. Like, there's a lot of it that just comes with putting yourself out there and letting luck find you. You can increase your luck by just opening up your aperture of opportunity. And so you got to put yourself out there. And so, like, it's, this, I mean, you're like, You like pay for your own ticket, you can come. And I'm like, okay, I'll be there.
You love that story, man.
And
Come on.
like, yeah. And then I just got back from, Portland. You're just making fun of me earlier about coming, staying on a boat in Portland with my, old boss. It's just like, yeah, why not? Like, you never know what that's going to lead to. You got to open up your brain and your mind, but also just exposure to random people.
Totally.
And if you're clear about what you want and how you want them to feel, those two things are just like super lethal, right? Like you'll be able to manifest so much luck and success.
That's a super interesting, like at a glance would seem like contradiction. So you know what you want, you have how you want people to feel, but then you're just open to doing stuff, which is kind of interesting because one seems very targeted and intentional, and the other seems like kind of like just open to how the world works. But it seems like that's this magic combination for you that has led to a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to increase your frequency of opportunity, because if you scream and yell about what you want and how you want people to feel in a circle of 20 people, you're going to run out of people to talk to very quickly. They're going to be like, "Yeah, we get what you want. We get what you want us to feel." So you're going to have to open it up and keep opening it and keep going through the motions. And so I don't think it's actually separate at all. I think it's one and the same, in my opinion. And then I think to the first part, what were you saying? The first part was surface area, like increasing your quantity. And then the first part was
this is just like you said that you should be smart enough to understand the risk, but dumb enough to say yes.
Yeah, that goes back to I love that saying so much. It goes back to this whole concept of like, have a plan, know what you want, and then when the opportunity, and then put yourself out there so you increase your chance of opportunity. And when the opportunity strikes, even if you're not perfectly ready for it, just go for it.
I love that.
Right? Because you'll figure it out a lot more along the way than you ever will planning in your office or with your your business partners. Yeah.
Okay. So last question is, if there were one thing you wish someone had told you early on 30 years ago in your career as it relates to relationships, what would it be?
Man, I wish, gosh, I wish I started earlier. I wish I started way earlier. And I wish I was like really, really invested in all of those friendships that I made in high school and in college. Gosh, all those communities of people and all those networks that I could have been deepening these relationships with. And it's just such a waste because I was like so busy trying to be cool or partying or trying to like get a part-time job to buy an extra like thing. It was just so dumb. Like all of these different people that are now probably doing amazing things that I could tap into to help them, or I can help them, or they can help me. And it's just what a waste. So if I could go back, I mean, not that I regret anything, but if I could go back and tell myself one thing, is just start this process earlier. Start building relationships earlier. You never know who's going to change into what you're going to want or need in the future.
Super helpful. Young, thank you, man. Okay, last question is, if people want to hear more from you, talk to you, get to know you, build a relationship with you, how do they find you?
So the best way is to go to alwayshan.com. That's always Han, H-A-N. And that's just a pun on my name. My last name's Han, and I'm always on. And so it's alwayshan.com. But that'll link you to my personal website, and it'll link you to all the different ways you can work with me. And also has a weekly newsletter where I share business insights every week.
Amazing. Thanks, Young. This is great.
Dude, thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
That was a fun one, man. That was a fun one.